Sunoco. Pro football today. It's a Sunday. It's week 17. It's Donnie Rightside. It's Joe Lisi. And away we go for the next 2 hours to set you up on everything you need to know for this slate today, Joe. It seems like most teams we know who are in the playoffs, we just don't know the seeding. But more importantly, Joe, who's in and who's out today is the question.
Yeah, that's the main question. I mean, the slate's a little light today, especially with the Thursday Christmas games. We had 3 games play out. We saw the 2 games on Saturday. Interesting games, right? Baltimore gets a high-scoring win over Green Bay. Derrick Henry dominates. But what does that mean for the playoff picture today? There's meaningful games, but we'll pick and choose and see what we have. Hopefully we can make some money today, Don.
By the way, Joe, there's a game later on today at 4 o'clock. I believe there's only 2 4 o'clock games, Philadelphia Eagles and the Buffalo Bills, which should be fun to watch. Not a lot really at stake in that game, but 2 teams using that as maybe a late-season measuring stick. I just want to bring this game up. We don't have to handicap it, Joe. It's the New York Giants and it's the Las Vegas Raiders. They are out-tanking each other this week by saying, your starter's down, watch our starter go down. Your starter's down, we're going to pull another starter back. Looking at that game, Joe, as an analyst and a handicapper, is there any angles that you play in this game, or you deserve to lose if you bet this game, Joe?
Yeah, I think that's part of it. I mean, with Brock Bowers being on the IR, Max Crosby coming out and says he doesn't care about the number 1 pick, and he's on IR.
Away.
And then all of a sudden he's playing basketball. Did you see the Instagram?
No, I didn't. No.
He tweeted out, not tweeted out.
He's so bad I can't play.
He put an Instagram story in his house playing basketball with his son, saying that he's completely fine. So here's the situation. I guess the only way you could play it, Donnie, if you want to take a guy's going to tackle today, no Andrew Thomas. We have both quarterbacks starting in Geno Smith and Jackson Dart. The weapons are a little bit limited, but maybe we take it over. I mean, that would be the only way to I can't cap the side perspective, knowing that both teams don't want to win the game. Maybe we get a high-scoring game because maybe nobody wants to tackle.
Like, again, we'll get in this game a little bit later, but it's where both teams don't want to win. It's like, well, what are the options you have on the table where you say, Pete Carroll's probably stupid enough to think that this game means they need to win it. The same thing with Geno Smith. That's how you play it out. But if I am looking at this game, Joe, doesn't it feel like you're just taking running backs because they just want to hand the football off, let the clock run, and, hey, we're not going to try to be aggressive today?
You would think that. Again,
Genty, big game.
There are contractual incentives, right, that some guys can hit, maybe some of the wide receivers, Wan'Dale Robinson maybe, and some of the others. But, again, with no Brock Bowers, the main weapon, the offensive line is beat up. They haven't been able to run the football consistently for Ashton Genty. What does that mean for the offense? And you're right. Pete Carroll, and I'll give you credit, you said it could be one and done. Yeah. That's the way they're headed right now.
He's got to be one and done at this point. But, Joe, we did have meaningful football yesterday, as we saw. Let's take an AFC perspective here to start. The Houston Texans took on the Los Angeles Chargers yesterday. This line closed, Joe, -1, -1.5 as a favorite towards the home team, the Chargers, and also a total, 40.5 to 41, depending on where you were shopping at. Final score, 20-16. And, by the way, it shouldn't even have been that close. You had a couple drives in the first quarter, bombs away for the Houston Texans that got them up 14, Joe, and then they just went out on the ice capades after and said, hey, we're not going to do anything after that. We don't think you can chase us down. 20-16, Houston gets to win 11-5. The defense looks great, but the offense, final 3 quarters, the heck was going on?
Yeah, and I put this out after the win saying that anybody believing in the Houston Texans' big picture to be an AFC champion, you better have your head examined. And I understand they're 11-5 overall. I understand they have one of the best defensive fronts in the NFL, but we've seen time and time again where DeMeco Ryans, and I'll say this, he is the Dr. Evil of the NFL. They jump up 14-0. He puts, he pulls back the reins. He's afraid to put his foot on the pedal and just kill teams. Why win games 40-20 when you can lose them 21-17? Eventually, in a playoff situation, that mentality, expecting your defense to play perfect game in and game out, will ultimately bite you in the end. He has a franchise quarterback in C.J. Stroud. Let the guy cook. He threw for 142 in the first quarter. Yeah. He finishes with 244.
Yeah, Woody Marks, 19 carries, 71 yards, no touchdowns. Jordan, 8 carries for 36 yards. Jaden Higgins there, 2 catches, for 88 yards in this game. And you're right about this, Joe, because you saw the game plan going in, and most people probably thought it was going to be an under, and after the first quarter, that's not going to be an under because the Chargers will open it up. Game actually stays under. But understand what Joe was saying. Stroud had 2 deep shots to wide open players there. The guy is red hot, and it's like, okay, that's enough scoring here. We're not going to score for the rest of the half, and we're going to let the Chargers back in. And keep in mind, they were throwing interceptions and turnovers where the Chargers just couldn't get out of their own way and even make that happen. A 32-yard missed field goal by the most accurate kicker in the history of the NFL. But the Texans do get the victory. But I look at this, Joe, and your point is right. Both of these teams, Chargers and Texans, how do you win in the playoffs? Great defensive line, great offensive line. Neither one of these offensive lines, Joe, is going to be able to hold up in the playoffs. I don't think so.
No, it's not. And, you talk about the victory that they got over Jacksonville where they put up 36 points with their backup Davis Mills, right? That was an outlier because you look at the games after that. 16-13 to the Titans, right? They barely win. 23-19 to the Bills. 20-16 to the Colts. They blow out Arizona. They have a close game against the Raiders, right? 23-21. And then yesterday's performance. If you don't want to blow teams out, that is a mentality that I'm telling you, in the end, you're going to meet an offense that is going to put up 30 on your defense, and you're not going to be able to match because you don't have that killer instinct offensively. And we talked about Bobby Slowick 2 years ago with C.J. Stroud. C.J. Stroud hasn't shown he's like an elite quarterback. We know he could do it in spurts. Can he do it for 4 quarters in a playoff environment?
We are really up in the air, Joe, in the AFC. Let's get that broad picture of the conference betting odds. If you take a look, it's the Denver Broncos currently right now, Joe, plus 350 price. The New England Patriots, 4-1 price, along with the Buffalo Bills. Then the Jags, the Texans, the Chargers, who those 2 teams just played yesterday. It seems to me it's wide open. Denver, we haven't seen them do it on the big stage just yet. Love what they're doing this season, but questions about, how easy is the schedule and what are you going to get out of Bo Nix once you get to the playoffs? The Patriots, the same thing. Drake May's been great. Schedule hasn't been all that great. The Buffalo Bills with Josh Allen. If they don't get there this year, when can they ever get there? There is that team sitting there, Joe, the Jacksonville Jaguars right now, hitting the gas pedal on offense at the right time. Talk to me about a couple of these teams in the AFC you might be looking at.
Yeah, so Denver, if they get the number 1 seed, they're going to be very difficult to beat in Mile High. Right. But to your point about Jacksonville, they are really coming into form, and Trevor Lawrence is looking like that franchise guy. He's throwing the ball vertically. We see the emergence of Strange, the tight end. Parker Washington has come on in the absence of Hunter. That's out. They're doing it, running the football with Travis Etienne and stretching defenses over the top. They've been opportunistic defensively. They've been now in multiple tough environments and have picked up solid road wins. If you could get that, they pick up another road win today, and I understand Indianapolis is dead and buried, but if they bury them by double digits yet again, the way they did against Denver, in a playoff type of situation, I'm going to buy into Liam Cohen. I actually believe in this team. I like his play calling. He's aggressive. He wants to score on every possession. And in a playoff type of atmosphere, I would much rather take that team than Houston. That's more of a defensive-minded team, hoping that they get opportunities on the defensive side of the ball.
Exactly. Solid offensive line, Joe, in Jacksonville, and also a great defensive line that can put pressure, but the quarterback really coming into his own. You have a couple good running backs here. We'll see if they get Tootin back, but obviously Travis Etienne on one side, he's been fantastic. You get the late season addition there at wide receiver. Now you have 3 to 4 wide receiver weapons, a decent tight end to do with. I am really intrigued by Jacksonville. Again, a road game today. You put up a victory over the Colts. So again, the Colts aren't the end-all, be-all, but that's still a nice road win if you can pick that up, Joe. There's one team in the AFC I look right there in this playoff picture, and it's a 16-1. The Steelers aren't going anywhere, right?
I don't know.
Okay. Go ahead.
No,
Spin on it.
That performance, that performance last week where people said that they could have allowed that, loss. They didn't need it. They took it to the Lions. Now, the Lions, we saw that performance on Christmas night against Minnesota. Pathetic when Brosmer throws for 50-plus yards and you still lose by double digits.
Crazy.
That's besides the point. But the way they dominated on the road, and if Jaylen Warren and that rushing attack could take over, he put up a $142 and 2 touchdowns in a road environment. You have to say, with the experience of Aaron Rodgers and how the defense now is played in multiple weeks, bouncing back into playoff form, they've been opportunistic. They're limiting chunk plays now in passing attacks. They're forcing teams to work down the field. in a perfect setting, if they get a home playoff game in round one, I like their chances to potentially move to maybe an AFC championship.
Yeah, 2 price points I do think are intriguing here, Joe. The Buffalo Bills at a 4-1 price and the Jacksonville Jaguars at a plus 550. The Buffalo Bills are going to take on the Philadelphia Eagles today in the rain up in Orchard Park. We'll get to that a little bit later in the show, but more importantly, let's have an NFC focus on who we believe might be the best team in the NFC today. It's Pro Football Today. It's Donnie Rightside and Joe Lisi. We'll be back after this short break.
When did we become, so bitter that we can't accept another man's apology? We make mistakes all the time. And as a grown man, you have to say, I'm sorry every once in a while. And it's okay to say that. And the apology, I think, should be accepted. And in this case, I'm accepting it.
The Craig Carton Show, only on SportsGrid.
When you look at this NBA Cup, you have to think about the importance. As a coach, I find a lot of importance. This wasn't a gimmick win. The Knicks earned it the hard way, and it matters in April as Mike Brown continues to build that culture in New York, and now, in my opinion, the Knicks are legit contenders to win the NBA title.
Pro Basketball Today, only on SportsGrid.
I mean, they couldn't get the Arizona State coach to come out. They couldn't get the BYU coach to leave their job. I mean, it's just very odd, I feel, when we watch this whole thing play out and try and really understand what happened here with Michigan not being able to make some of the splashier hires that they thought they were going to be able to make.
Game time decisions, only on SportsGrid.
They have by far the highest ceiling out of any team in the league. Elite talent, NBA shot making, versatility, and the best coach in the league in John Shire. They can beat you in multiple ways. Half court, full court, running gun, walk it up. And they out-execute you, maybe except for that game versus Texas Tech.
College Basketball Today, only on SportsGrid.
Right back here on Pro Football Today. It's a Sunday. It's Week 17. You got this week, you got next week, and then you have the playoffs here. It's Donnie Rightside and Joe Lisi. We just took a look at a little spot there, Joe, for the AFC. Getting a little of a measure up for Week 17 with only a week to go, saying, who do we actually think is going to be the best teams in this conference with a chance to possibly move up or maybe take a good price point, like the Jacksonville Jaguars. Let's do the same thing here with the NFC. But before we get there, Joe, we had a game played last night late. The Baltimore Ravens, 41-24 final over the Green Bay Packers. The Baltimore Ravens were right around the 3 to 3.5 all week long as an underdog, Joe. Closer to game time, dropped to -2.5 for the Green Bay Packers. A total which plummeted into the high 30s, 41-24 final. And Baltimore heard your yells and screams from the previous game in the fourth quarter. Get Derrick Henry the football, Joe. 36 carries, 216, and 4 touchdowns.
Yeah,
they
you
hurt
think
us.
John Harbaugh's looking himself in the mirror after they lost to the Patriots? He runs for 128 yards, doesn't touch the football for the last 11:28 of the football game, and he just pounds a very good Green Bay front seven, right? Minus Micah Parsons since he got injured.
Yep.
They've been giving up chunk yards in the rushing attack, but he puts down 4 rushing touchdowns. You look at Tyler Huntley, again, a pedestrian performance through the air. And again, Derrick Henry is going to potentially carry this team. As he goes with the rushing attack, so do the wins and losses. And we saw it play out last night, a 41-point performance time in Green Bay. I mean, that was dominant. And again, Matt LaFleur, too, and I understand Jordan Love didn't play in this game, but they have an identity problem as well. They still don't know who the number one is as it relates to the wide receiver. Obviously, Josh Jacobs a little banged up. He had 4 carries, I think, for 3 yards. Wilson was ineffective. And again, when you just look at LaFleur and big picture, again, they've been very inconsistent with the play calling and how this plays out in critical matchups that you can't. When you look at both teams, right, even if, let's say, they make the playoffs, I'm not buying into Baltimore big picture because of how the defense is and because they're hot and cold. And the same thing with Green Bay. Are we buying into Green Bay with Jordan Love being banged up and not knowing what this team is going to do from an identity perspective? I just can't.
I look at this too, Joe, which is interesting. Like Huntley, very efficient again. 16 of 20, touchdown pass, no interceptions, a QBR rating of a 91, which again is on a basis of 100. 50 is like a decent game. He had a 91. You take a look at the rushing game, Joe. 53 carries for 307 yards and 4 touchdowns yesterday. That is impressive. So you know where I'm going with this. Next week, let's just play devil's advocate today. You have a game in Cleveland versus Pittsburgh. Cleveland pulls the upset today. Who's your quarterback next week in Baltimore? Is it already settled already? And I'm not talking about like, oh, we like Huntley. Did Lamar already pack it in? Is he packed in this year?
I don't know. He's not running the football like he did last year. And maybe he's been a little banged up, but he tweaked his back in the loss to New England. And again, it opens the door for Huntley. But even if Huntley does, let's say, play, you're going to need Henry to run the football effectively because you're not getting the RPO game with Tyler Huntley as much as you would with Lamar. And again, this team is predicated when they have success on the ground, they have wins. That's why they were the number 1 seed a couple of years ago. It's against Kansas City. They had the number 1 rushing attack.
They throw it all over the place,
in the NFL. So it's amazing, how teams go away from their strength in critical matchups. But again, now you see the writing on the wall. I mean, if Lamar is 90% healthy, you have to go with Lamar because, again, yes, I understand Huntley. But, Donnie, 107 yards? I mean, come on. 107 yards.
Efficiency, Joe. Efficiency.
He's throwing bubble screens.
That's like Doge out there, Joe. Efficiency at this point right now.
Come on.
But
he threw for 107 yards.
But that is their MO and their game plan. Again, they put up 41 points in that game against what we thought was a decent Green Bay defense. And even though you might say to yourself, all right, well, Micah Parsons wasn't there, you can't just completely collapse at that point. By the way, shout out Malik Willis.
Yeah.
18 of 21 for 288, man. And the guy's got the legs out here. That guy really resurrects his career. Where maybe you're looking down Tennessee like, the heck did we let go?
Yeah, you talk about the free agent guys. Are you looking at Mac Jones and Malik Willis potentially to lure?
Big time.
I will say he's playing more like the player coming out of Liberty that they thought he would be, after a couple of years in the NFL. So he's really progressing. And again, he does have an understanding of Matt LaFleur's offense. So they do have a competent backup that can come in, not just understand the offense, but actually produce and get the football to Christian Watson and everybody else. The problem is, Christian Watson is there one week, and then he's not there. And then again, since Tucker Kraft has been out of that offense, they've been struggling to find the number 1 as it relates to the passing attack, but maybe it is Watson moving forward.
Now look at this, Joe. The odds to win the AFC North. The Pittsburgh Steelers are a heavy favorite. It's a minus 420 price, plus 330 on the Ravens. We're going to know exactly what the deal is by the end of today, but let me go on record and say this. If there's any way that the Steelers lose this game to the Browns, the Ravens will beat them next week.
You really think so?
Yes. But see, the question was, though, do you think, and again, it's minus 420. I do think the Steelers win today and wrap it up. But I'm telling you, no DK Metcalf this week or next week. Now, the Browns should not even be playing for anything but pride, if there's any pride left, which is basically, hey, Myles Garrett, let me get a sack or two, and I'm going to get out of here. How do you think? Do you think there's a chance that the Ravens at plus 330 can win this division?
No, because, again, I've been on the Browns in critical spots, and I know they're a home dog here. It's going to be very difficult, I think. Quinshon Judkins is out for the year, right? You have Dylan Sampson, who's banged up, but he's still not a workhorse.
Yeah.
He's more of a third down, tweener type of back. So that leaves Raheem Sanders. He's a bigger back coming out, obviously, of South Carolina. He came from Arkansas as well. He's the workhorse. He's built like Judkins. Are you going to put the game on Shedeur Sanders in this matchup? Again, I don't know if Stefanski does that. Again, I still think Pittsburgh can move the football enough. I have concerns about how is Cleveland going to attack Pittsburgh. If they attack aggressively over the top, I think there's still a possibility that Cleveland could put up points. But if they're just going to line up, run the football, and then have 3rd and 8, Shedeur Sanders is going to get killed in this matchup. 34.5 is the total. I think Pittsburgh should win this by double digits.
Some wind and rain in the forecast. And Joe is right about this. Well, you're not getting the Cleveland Browns of like 5 weeks ago where you have a healthy offensive line, healthy running game, a couple good wide receivers, and a tight end. Like everybody's banged up with nothing to play for. And you take a look at the lines, Joe. The 3.5s, they're gone. They're 4.5s now as we sit. About what? An hour and a half until game time today. And the total that is rising from 34.5 to 35.5. My question is, I don't think Pittsburgh is going to be all that explosive today. But where are the points coming from the Browns? Is the bigger question.
That's the biggest thing. Fannon's been the number one weapon. For
and he's banged up.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So they can't get it to a wide out. It's got to be Dylan Sampson and Raheem Sanders, maybe on the ground. We'll see if they can run the football later.
3 big tight ends for the Pittsburgh Steelers. We'll see if they can come into play today. And Aaron Rodgers, they don't have to be pretty, Joe. 7-6 win. They're headed to the playoffs with a division championship in their back pocket. But you know what game we're going to next, Joe? Come on now. Giants Raiders next.
Whether we become, so bitter that we can't accept another man's apology. We make mistakes all the time. And as a grown man, you have to say, I'm sorry every once in a while. And it's okay to say that. And the apology, I think, should be accepted. And in this case, I'm accepting it.
The Craig Carton Show. Only on SportsGrid.
When you look at this NBA Cup, you have to think about the importance. As a coach, I find a lot of importance. This wasn't a gimmick win. The Knicks earned it the hard way, and it matters in April as Mike Brown continues to build that culture in New York, and now, in my opinion, the Knicks are legit contenders to win the NBA title.
Pro basketball today, only on SportsGrid.
I mean, they couldn't get the Arizona State coach to come out. They couldn't get the BYU coach to leave their job. I mean, it's just very odd, I feel, when we watch this whole thing play out and try and really understand what happened here with Michigan not being able to make some of the splashier hires that they thought they were going to be able to make.
Game time decisions, only on SportsGrid.
They have by far the highest ceiling out of any team in the league. Elite talent, NBA shot making, versatility, and the best coach in the league in John Shire. They can beat you in multiple ways. Half court, full court, running gun, walk it up. And they out-execute you, maybe except for that game versus Texas Tech.
College basketball today, only on SportsGrid.
Usually late in the season, Joe, week 17, week 18, what are we trying to line up for? Get some edges on teams that are looking to make the playoffs, maybe get a win and move up in the seedings, the 3rd seed, the 2nd seed, the 1 seed, and get some really clean football. How is it this week in week number 17 that I'm looking at a game between the New York Giants and the Las Vegas Raiders and saying this could be the most intriguing game on the entire board for this weekend? Why? Because these two teams are fighting for the top spot, which means hey, pick up a win, you get the number 1 seed. No. Lose, and you're probably going to get the top pick. We'll get to those odds in just a few moments. But, Joe, we're out-tanking each other. You have players like Max Crosby, who would cut his leg off in order to play a football game today, telling the media, hey, what do you think? Should you tank this game to get the number 1 pick? He's like, dude, I'm going out there to wreck this entire game plan for the Giants. Less than a few hours later, he was inactive and on IR because they don't want him to wreck the game plan. Then you have the Giants going, we're going to keep our best offensive lineman out of this because he's a little bit banged up with a hamstring, Joe. Every which way I look, including Brock Bowers, as you see the players ruled out. Nobody wants to win this game, Joe, but somebody has to win. Unless we go to overtime like a 6-6 tie at this point, which would be the worst case scenario.
Yeah, again, thankfully it's a 4 o'clock kick because I could see if I win money in the 1 o'clock window.
Double it. You could double down in this game. Come on.
I mean, thankfully. The 41.5 is intriguing because it is Jackson Dart and Geno.
Yeah.
Again, with no Max Crosby, no pass rush potentially. Granted, Andrew Thomas is out. I get that, But you would think that maybe both of these quarterbacks could have success through the air. Are they just going to line it and run it? I don't know. I guess we'll have to. It might be better to take a wait and see, an in-game approach on this game. Yeah. If you want to buy into the over at the 41.5, do it and then see how it plays out. But I can't believe if both teams are in tank mode. New York going to Vegas is a 2.5-point road favorite? Why? Based off what?
It's been swinging back all week, too. Like
2.5.
It's almost like you say, I can't take a favorite. Whoever is the favorite, I'm going to fade him at that point. Now, Joe, you bring up a good situation because so many times you look at like NBA betting where teams are tanking. What do they usually do? I'm going to put my best foot forward in the first quarter, at least first, second quarter, or third quarter. The fourth quarter, we're going to the bench. We're up 5. We're going to get blown out and get beat by 15 points. The reason I bring this up, would it be smart, Joe, to play first half props and or a side and a total, knowing you're probably going to get somewhat decent football? Because we as all know, even me as an Eagles fan, a couple years ago, one of the very last games of the regular season, the Eagles were at home to the Washington Commanders. The Eagles were in a close game against the Commanders and suddenly pulled starters with like 4 minutes to go in that game to make sure they didn't score any more points and lost. That's a possibility in this game today.
It is a possibility. We're seeing threes. I see threes in the market now.
Giants
for the
running
Giants.
away.
I mean, that's crazy. That's a significant road favorite now. Yeah. For a team that's typically looking to lose and tank maybe the pick. Again, where are you going prop-wise? Outside of, okay, so Bowers is out.
Yeah.
You going Michael Meyer? Are you going Meyer again, or are you just going
barely gets any looks either.
Trey Tucker is the leading wide receiver. Tucker's been obviously explosive at times this year. Outside of Wan'Dale Robinson, who do you have confidence in? Isaiah Hodgins? I mean, he's averaging 21.4 point reception, per game that he's in there. That's terrible.
Looking at the first half total, Joe, 20.5
That's
points at plus 105. Doesn't that feel high at this point?
Yeah.
Because, again, I'm trying to say that we're going to get a cleaner first half than second half. But then you say, okay, they're going to score 3 touchdowns. Well, if nobody really wants to get the lead. Let's run the football. Let's keep it down. I could see this halftime score, I don't know, 10-7, 10-6.
I'll go through a number of different first half. The Bronco game where they won, remember where they kicked the field goal at the end? That was, I think, 21 at the half. It was 14-7. I remember the only game that really blew through the total for the Raiders was the Dallas game where Dak had a huge night. Remember with Pickens and Lamb on that Monday night? That was a huge first half total. But think about that offense. That's Dak Prescott, George Pickens, and C.D. Lamb. We're talking about Jackson Dart and Wan'Dale Robinson and old man Geno Smith. I mean, if I had to bet this game, I probably would lay the 3 because it's like, why are the Giants favored? The Giants are favored at -3 for what?
It's road. It's a road game.
And that's what
it's
I'm
a
saying.
long travel spot. Pete Carroll out there. He's dumb enough to win this football game. The Giants should have learned in the past, like, don't win these games, get a higher draft pick. But then I look at the rushing yards and say, I think I understand. We might not be getting an aerial assault from the Giants. And by the way, play for Jackson Dart has gone down since he's not using those timed runs, which opens up the defense. If they know you're not running, they're going to sit back, and that hurts. Ashton Genty, 77.5 rushing yards, Joe. Tyrone Tracy, 58.5 rushing yards. Any running backs?
I probably would take Tracy. He's more explosive. I mean, he did hit 70 in the loss to the Commanders. He's more explosive. Singletary, though, is splitting carries with him. I probably would take Singletary for an anytime and take Tracy for the yards.
Yeah, again, we're going to get to some of these props a little bit later in the show, but also, more importantly, Joe, coming up after the break, we're going to take a look at some predictive market access in this game and the ramifications of who might be picking number 1 overall. This is the ultimate tank game. It's Week 17. Yeah, you speak about the good games like the Eagles and the Bills, but also we love games like the Giants and the Raiders. Coming up next. Come back with us.
When did we become, so bitter that we can't accept another man's apology? We make mistakes all the time. And as a grown man, you have to say, I'm sorry every once in a while. And it's okay to say that. And the apology, I think, should be accepted. And in this case, I'm accepting it.
The Craig Carton Show, only on SportsGrid.
When you look at this NBA Cup, you have to think about the importance. As a coach, I find a lot of importance. This wasn't a gimmick win. The Knicks earned it the hard way, and it matters in April as Mike Brown continues to build that culture in New York, and now, in my opinion, the Knicks are legit contenders to win the NBA title.
Pro basketball today, only on SportsGrid.
I mean, they couldn't get the Arizona State coach to come out. They couldn't get the BYU coach to leave their job. I mean, it's just very odd, I feel, when we watch this whole thing play out and try and really understand what happened here with Michigan not being able to make some of the splashier hires that they thought they were going to be able to make.
Game time decisions only on SportsGrid.
They have by far the highest ceiling out of any team in the league. Elite talent, NBA shot making, versatility, and the best coach in the league in John Shire. They can beat you in multiple ways. Half court, full court, running gun, walk it up. And they out-execute you, maybe except for that game versus Texas Tech.
College basketball today, only on SportsGrid.
Pro Football Today, Joe. Let's get down with some predictive markets here. And we take a look again at the Giants and the Vegas Raiders. So much is going to be determined by the final score of this football game, and maybe determines, Joe, who picks number one overall in the draft. But if we take a look at the Kalshi market today, Joe, the question, it is specific. Which team will make the number one overall pick in 2026? Which means if you trade out and trade it to Cleveland, let's just say they get it, well, then you would lose even if you had the worst record, and that's the team that you picked. The reason we bring that up is Vegas and New York are playing today. There's a 53% chance in the odds market, up 9% right now on the Vegas Raiders, that they will make the first overall pick. Quick correlation, Joe, is what? Well, you take a look at the odds market. It says the Giants are favored to win. They're supposed to win. That's why. I'm not so sure about this, Joe. A lot can go wrong, which means, does the bat phone call down to the sideline and fire Pete Carroll in the third quarter if he's actively trying to win this game?
So now I'm perplexed because we broke down the game.
Yes.
And I tell you, from the spread perspective, I would take the Giants, which would lead me to believe that if we're looking off this, that the Raiders will make the first pick.
Yeah.
Now, Raiders, look, I'll say this. Whether you love Pete Carroll or not, that's not the question. They don't have a quarterback. Geno Smith is not the answer. Why they signed him to a 3-year deal thinking that he was Sam Darnold or somebody else, for that matter, that could take this team to the promised land was ridiculous. He overexceeded expectations with Seattle, and then he got his team to a better place. But at the end of the day, by no means is he a franchise guy. They're not going to go anywhere with Geno Smith. So they need to draft maybe Fernando Mendoza or whoever you believe is the number one overall quarterback. Dante Moore we could throw out there as well. But I would probably go with the market movement, thinking that Las Vegas, they are in a complete rebuild, Donnie. They have no weapons outside of, let's be honest, Brock Bowers, Genty, and Max Crosby. Outside of that, they have nothing.
Yes. Devoid of playmakers.
They have nothing.
Yeah.
Trey Tucker, is pedestrian. They don't have an elite number one. They traded away Jacoby Myers.
Who looks like a one. You know what I mean? Which is so crazy. He gets out of Vegas.
It's just amazing where this team is. And again, why is it? I understand Al Davis back in the day, but why is it that this team is always like this, no matter who they get as a head coach? Bisaccia might have been there, the coach.
Playoff.
That guy could have been maybe the coach that they swung and missed. They didn't offer him the job because he wasn't a recognizable name.
They wanted Pierce.
And all they did was win with the guy.
No, that's the way it is. And by the way, just a quick point there. Number one overall pick, Joe. Looks like a runaway right now for Fernando Mendoza. Do you agree with that? Or you maybe have some illusions like, you know what? Dante Moore's got some legs too. It can do some things. And, Ruben Hurricane Bain, as I like to say, is 11%. Look, nobody's trading up and taking the defensive end number one over. I'm sorry about that. But it feels like it's pointing to Mendoza.
Yeah, I would sell that. How about that? Because I think Indiana is susceptible to an upset in the college football playoff. So if that's the case, and let's say Fernando Mendoza does not perform well, potentially maybe that hurts the stock, at least early on, where if you sell it here, you could buy it back, especially if Dante Moore potentially overexceeds expectations and, let's say, shreds apart Texas Tech in the second-round game. Now all of a sudden you have value. You have that CLV that everybody craves and wants to have, at their disposal. So I think Fernando Mendoza is a good quarterback. I don't think he's he's not Jaden Daniels. He's not Caleb Williams. He's not a generational talent to say we need this guy. He's not even Trevor Lawrence, Donnie. So for that aspect, I probably would sell him.
Yeah, we'll see. Well, now that's where you can bet on the odds mark. Get in, get out, Joe. Get that hot information. You get it. But Mendoza right now is the favorite here. Let's go to the NFC. We got a big one tonight, Joe. Sunday night football, 2 teams at 11-4. Those 2 teams, the Chicago Bears and the San Francisco 49ers, Joe. You love this. Opening line, -3. You take a look at now, 3.5 across the board. Understand this, Joe. Ticket counts, about 65% of the tickets coming in still on the Chicago Bears, but that line going with the San Francisco 49ers. Key indicators in this game are George Kittle looks like he's probably not going to play in this game with an ankle injury. Ricky Pearsall, Joe, fighting to get back for this one. Maybe a little bit under the weather, San Francisco, in terms of the injury conditions, but the total of this game, we're expecting points. 51.5 to 52 is on where you're shopping at, Joe. Big ball game tonight.
It really is, and I guess this would be the measuring stick to see if Chicago is really legit as the team to potentially maybe be that dark horse to make an NFC championship. Everybody talking about the Rams, everybody potentially talking about the Eagles, and rightfully so. I get that Seattle's in that mix. But can the Bears pick up the win on the road in San Francisco, contain Brock Purdy that shook off the ring rust a little bit, and that offense is humming. They put up 40-plus on Indianapolis. Can you contain Christian McCaffrey defensively, and can you put up a 30 spot the way you've done now in big matchups? That is going to be the question mark. Or can the defense contain San Francisco enough where you grind out a road win the way you did against Philadelphia? I still like San Francisco here. I think it's a huge step-up spot. They've overexceeded. They've done a great job with Ben Johnson. I think Caleb is coming back into his own, but I'm still not bought in that Caleb is under, I want to say, disciplined enough in this type of spot to pull out this victory against a veteran team that's looking to potentially make an NFC championship run. And if they pick up this win, right, and pick it up, and maybe they are the number 1 seed, they're going to be right through the playoffs, potentially to the Super Bowl for San Francisco.
Yeah, I'm not as high on San Francisco as most people are at this point, because I do think that defense eventually is going to collapse, but they're winning football games. You got to give them credit for that. And also, it will be different. George Kittle's been an absolute beast right now. Ricky Pearsall might not be the end-all be-all on that offense, but he has a pretty key component as that deep weapon to sort of open it up. Your guy Jennings today, probably going to be a prime target, chance for a touchdown, and certainly his receiving props. It always falls right on Christian McCaffrey in this game to see how it turns out. If we look at that total, Joe, because this does have the playoff feel, the winner of this game could get a leg up on who's actually going to be the number 1 overall seed. And if we look at those price points on the number 1 overall seed, Joe, plus 100 on the Seahawks, because they control their destiny there. The San Francisco 49ers at 2-1 price, Rams 6-1, and the Bears at 6-1. And obviously how this game ends, if the Bears win, that number is going to be cut at least in half with legitimate chance to be the number 1 overall. But look at that, Joe. 3 NFC West teams in the top 3 here to be the number 1 seed. That's impressive.
It really is. And it's more impressive on what McDonald's done with Seattle, right? And Sam Darnold, we saw those 2 performances at the end of the regular season last year and in the playoff loss to the L.A. Rams where Darnold wasn't the answer for the Vikings. And they moved on from him, but he's been a great addition to Seattle. Love him or hate him, he's still got his team in a position. I actually think they get this win today over Carolina. Carolina picked up the win over Tampa Bay last week, 23-20, but you have to bet. I keep saying it. Go back to the Bills game for Carolina, the game where they got smashed. Every other week, Carolina steps up. Now they're catching more than a key number now at home as a home dog.
Yeah.
I just, that seems too good to be true. I think Seattle wins, and I think potentially even money isn't bad. I mean, to get a team that controls their destiny at even money is still not bad. I mean, it would only be Seattle and San Francisco for me. I can't buy into the Bears or the Rams at this point.
Yeah, taking it down. We'll see. Odds to win the NFC Championship. The favorite is not the Seattle Seahawks, as we tab them as the favorite to win the actual number 1 seed. Los Angeles Rams plus 240, Seattle plus 320. Then the Eagles at plus 450, getting healthy. Then the Niners, the Bears, the Packers, the Bucks, and the Panthers. I think we talk about the AFC wide open. Same thing with the NFC, Joe. I look at the playoff picture between the AFC and the NFC as wide open as it's ever been.
Yeah, it's wide open because there's a number of different teams that obviously have potential. Every team has weakness, but I'll still go back to that 450 price with the Eagles. Listen, we haven't heard about A.J. Brown. Mum's the word lately. They're in playoff mode. All they're doing
Wisdom
is
teeth out, Joe.
all they're doing is picking up victories. They have their identity back. They have their mojo. All of a sudden, they're starting to pull away from teams now and cover big spreads, something that we didn't see earlier in the year. Jalen Carter comes back. We'll see how they play against Josh Allen today. But I would still be intrigued at the $450 price. Defending Super Bowl champs. Again, when the playoffs hit, it's a different animal. It's different intensity. I'm willing to bet on that team more so than anybody else.
Take a look here, Joe. Some touchdown props in this game between Chicago and San Francisco. If you give me a 3-pack, I'm taking Juwan Jennings plus 120, but also I'm doing the double down at the running back spot for the Chicago Bears. Swift plus 130, Monungai plus 155. Give me one of those running backs in a Jennings touchdown, Joe. 2 out of 3 ain't bad.
No, it's not. And Jennings scored again last week against Indianapolis.
Touchdown machine.
Yeah, he loves Purdy. Purdy's his guy. Yards, he needs to get up there because when you take him, it's hard. It hurts.
Seattle and Carolina, big game up next.
When did we become, so bitter that we can't accept another man's apology? We make mistakes all the time. And as a grown man, you have to say, I'm sorry every once in a while. And it's okay to say that. And the apology, I think, should be accepted. And in this case, I'm accepting it.
The Craig Carton Show. Only on SportsGrid.
When you look at this NBA Cup, you have to think about the importance. As a coach, I find a lot of importance. This wasn't a gimmick win. The Knicks earned it the hard way. And it matters in April as Mike Brown continues to build that culture in New York. And now, in my opinion, the Knicks are legit contenders to win the NBA title.
Pro basketball today. Only on SportsGrid.
I mean, they couldn't get the Arizona State coach to come out. They couldn't get the BYU coach to leave their job. I mean, it's just very odd, I feel, when we watch this whole thing play out and try and really understand what happened here with Michigan not being able to make some of the splashier hires that they thought they were going to be able to make.
Game time decisions. Only on SportsGrid.
They have by far the highest ceiling out of any team in the league. Elite talent, NBA shot making, versatility, and the best coach in the league in John Shire. They can beat you in multiple ways. Half court, full court, running gun, walk it up. And they out-execute you, maybe except for that game versus Texas Tech.
College basketball today. Only on SportsGrid.
Pro Football Today right here on the SportsGrid Network. Donnie Rightside along with Joe Lisi here, going through some of these games that matter a lot. And again, some games that don't matter at all that are still a lot of fun to talk about, again, with the Giants and the Raiders. But let's focus on a game that might control the NFC in a couple different ways, Joe. That's the Seattle Seahawks going on the road to take on the Carolina Panthers. If we are looking at the game board right there, Joe, you see the 7.5s? They're gone. 7s at most outlets, now even 6.5s starting to show, which means money is coming in on the Carolina Panthers. The total of this game, Joe, 43.5 has dropped to 42.5. West Coast team, or Pacific Northwest, I should say, now coming to the East Coast to take on the Carolina Panthers. Weather conditions should be okay, but most people thinking this game could be close. And also the ramifications we'll get into, Joe, if the Panthers win and if the Buccaneers lose, they can clinch the division today. But we probably don't think that's going to happen. Seattle is a touchdown favorite coming east, Joe. What's your thoughts?
Yeah, I think they get hammered today, meaning Carolina. I really do. And I understand that Carolina has been a dominant home team. They knocked off the Rams, knocked off the Cowboys. They knocked off Tampa. They're a very good home team and have stepped up as an underdog. Double digits as well. But again, with that defense and knowing how at times inconsistent Bryce Young is with the passing attack. Again, he was coming into his own last year. You saw glimpses. You see glimpses this year, and they're hot and cold every other week. 1 week, McMillan's involved in the offense. The next week, he can't get him the football. Going up against this defense, they're going to force Bryce Young to throw over the top. Can he do that with Liggett and Coker and those wide receivers? I'm not so sure, and that's why I have concerns. Again, I know that Dowdle and Chuba Hubbard have been a mainstay at the running back position, and they can run the football at times, right? But they're not running on that front, so I don't believe today.
Yeah.
And I think on the flip side, I do believe Walker and Charbonnet can get yards on the ground. I just think Seattle's a little bit built more physical in the trenches, and I don't think Sam Darnold will have to do a lot. I think he'll put up numbers, but I think it's going to be the rushing attack that takes over. I actually think Seattle hammers them today by double digits.
Let me ask you about the play on this game, too, Joe, because I like where you're going with this. Most people would look, and rightfully so, 7.5, that's way too many points. It's going to be a close game, both teams playing for something. But hear me out on this. NFL players, we're human beings. Meaningful for Seattle means we have to win this game, and we have to win next week because we're eyeing up that number 1 seed.
Right.
Joe, Carolina loses today. Nothing changes. It's all on the line next week. And I know you don't, coaches aren't going to prepare their football teams. Okay, guys, don't worry about this week because there is a scenario, as we said. You could get a win today talking about Carolina, and somehow Miami pulls off an upset over Tampa Bay. You clinch the division, and that means a lot. But I'm looking at this saying, the need for the game for me, much more on Seattle. Am I wrong with that?
No. And again, I just think that if we're talking, and I know love him or hate him, but Darnold going up against Bryce Young, I like Darnold much better than I like Bryce Young. And I've been a Bryce Young backer. But again, I've seen the inconsistency. Go back a couple of weeks ago against the dead and buried New Orleans team. They can't pull the game out in the final minutes of that matchup. Against this defense, that secondary that plays dominant bump and run coverage, how are you going to create separation for McMillan, Leggett, and Coker to move the football down the field? And that's going to be the problem. If they contained basically Minnesota, I understand it was Brosmer, but if they contain Justin Jefferson and Addison and some of the bigger weapons that they went up against, and they basically contained L.A. in the games that they played, and I know it was a high-scoring game last time, but the first game in L.A., it was an ugly blue-collar type of game. Are you confident in Bryce Young and that offense if it's that type of game to pull it out or cover the 7? I'm not. I think they absolutely, if they fall behind, I think it could be a double-digit 10, 13, or 17-point win for the Seattle Seahawks.
Well, we'll talk about things including up to next week, who's going to get their 1,000 yards, who's going to get 6 catches to hit a plateau. And Justin Jefferson always comes into mind 53. You expect next week he's probably getting a lot of balls just to make sure he gets that number. The reason I bring this up, Joe, is we're in Week 17, a meaningful football game today for the Seattle Seahawks. Win this game, even more meaning next week when they line up in their finale to try to win the number 1 overall seed and the NFC West. Jackson Smith and Jigba is only a couple hundred yards away, Joe, from Calvin Megatron Johnson's all-time record for receiving. He's at 90.5 today. Do you factor that in where it's okay, I'll fade the 90 because most people are going to take it, or are they looking for him extra? But can you do that in a game that you absolutely have to win?
No, he's a mainstay in the favorite. Every week he gets close to 90 to 100 yards. Even when he was contained by L.A. a couple of weeks ago on that Thursday night, he still stepped up and caught a touchdown, right? I mean, he's always around the football, and Darnold looks to him. He creates separation. I actually took a shot, though. I did take a shot with Shaheed today.
Yeah.
Again, secondary option. I took him for 40, 50 plus a plus money. The guy's a home run hitter. They just can't get him the football. He could score on punt returns, but they can't get him the football in the passing attack. I'm hoping today, where they look to take away JSN, Shaheed could eat underneath.
Look, because their offense makes sense, Joe. The offensive line is quality. You have a good quarterback in the backfield there with Sam Darnold. But understand this, too. When you look at a wide receiver duo, it's you have 2 number 1s, that's great. But you have the true number 1 in JSN. You have the deep threat in Shaheed. And you have that guy that can work the sticks in Cooper Kupp. It just hasn't meshed all that much yet. And maybe there's a chance today. But if you look at some touchdown props today, Joe, you look at that total. It's not that high. Every single player listed in this game is plus money. JSN plus 105, Charbonnet plus 110, Walker plus 135.
Why is that?
I don't know.
I mean, I took a shot on Charbonnet because every time I'm on Walker, they put in Charbonnet, and now Walker all of a sudden. But Charbonnet is the battering ram in a game where they have to win to get tough yards. He's always in the end zone and he's always around it. So I'll take a shot. Charbonnet would be my shot today. But again, on the Carolina side, McMillan has to touch the end zone today for them to cover this number.
And by the way, McMillan is a 2-to-1 price. If I do the double up, now it's cheap prices. You can't really do the double up, Joe. If one guy's minus 135, one guy's plus 130. It doesn't make sense. You go 1 and 1 the wrong way, and it doesn't work out. Zach Charbonnet plus 110, Kenneth Walker the third plus 135. One of those two, Joe, I believe is going to find pay dirt today. Jackson Smith and Jigba plus 105. I need a little bit more of a price than that. I'd actually rather, and you're right about this, look at Rashid Shaheed at a plus 330 price and go for that angle.
Yeah, again, home run hitter, has elite speed. If we were talking about taking away the number one option of JSN, maybe in the first quarter you could get a big play from Shaheed and maybe he breaks pay dirt, right? I mean, all it takes, he has sprinter type of speed, and all it takes is one missed tackle for him to hit, the end zone. So, again, plus 330. I did take him, again, 40 plus and 50 plus on the receiving yards. Touchdown is always difficult, especially with Darnold. But, again, I still think he has a shot today.
Yeah, you take a look at the way that Carolina probably wants to play this game is sort of slow it down. Rico Dowdle's rushing prop is 46.5. Chuba Hubbard, 28.5. Let me tell you something right now, Joe. Dowdle or Chuba Hubbard doesn't get their price point, they ain't going to beat Seattle today.
No, they're going to be in long third downs, and Bryce Young's going to get battered. And that's what I expect to happen. I think Seattle's the side today.
Yeah, that game coming up in roughly an hour and 10 minutes. We'll see where that line ends up. But again, as we talk about 6.5 starting to permeate into the markets here with some money coming back on Carolina. The money, where's it going next? On the crunch. Come on back.
When did we become, so bitter that we can't accept another man's apology? We make mistakes all the time. And as a grown man, you have to say, I'm sorry every once in a while. And it's okay to say that. And the apology, I think, should be accepted. And in this case, I'm accepting it.
The Craig Carton Show. Only on SportsGrid.
When you look at this NBA Cup, you have to think about the importance. As a coach, I find a lot of importance. This wasn't a gimmick win. The Knicks earned it the hard way, and it matters in April as Mike Brown continues to build that culture in New York, and now, in my opinion, the Knicks are legit contenders to win the NBA title.
Pro basketball today, only on SportsGrid.
I mean, they couldn't get the Arizona State coach to come out. They couldn't get the BYU coach to leave their job. I mean, it's just very odd, I feel, when we watch this whole thing play out and try and really understand what happened here with Michigan not being able to make some of the splashier hires that they thought they were going to be able to make.
Game time decisions, only on SportsGrid.
They have by far the highest ceiling out of any team in the league. Elite talent, NBA shot making, versatility, and the best coach in the league in John Shire. They can beat you in multiple ways. Half court, full court, running gun, walk it up. And they out-execute you, maybe except for that game versus Texas Tech.
College basketball today, only on SportsGrid.
Who's having a good time today? It's Pro Football Today, Joe. Week 17 action, Week 17 fun. It's time for the crunch. Player props galore today. Each one of us, Joe Lisi and Donnie Rightside, have picked out 3 games and 3 props here that we absolutely like, Joe. I'm going to ask you first. Your 3 morning crunch today are who?
All wide receivers.
Oh, I love to see it. I love to see it.
So let's talk Jacksonville and Indianapolis. I understand Phillip Rivers had a huge performance in the loss on Monday night to San Francisco. Again, are we expecting that going up against a red-hot Jacksonville team? Not so much. But I do feel he could utilize the underneath throws, and I think Ty Warren could have a big day. You saw Jacksonville be a little susceptible to the tight ends throughout the regular season. I think Warren could have a huge day, potentially pay dirt as well. So give me Ty Warren over his receiving total. Emeka Egbuka, how about this? When you look at Tampa Bay, Did Baker Mayfield know he was playing last week?
I don't know. I don't think he knew anybody was playing last week at wide out.
He goes to Evans early for the touchdown. Ibuka didn't have a catch until the third quarter, but it was like a 40-yarder. He blew through his total of 38.5. They have a 34.5 listed on him today. I think this game could be high scoring. We saw Joe Burrow put up 45 points and 4 touchdowns on that defense. Could be similar for Tampa Bay today, but I'm not looking number one. I'm looking at Ibuka to blow through his total. And then Jamar Chase, highest total on the board, 53.5 with a dead and buried team in Arizona that gives up a ton of passing yards. Are you telling me Jamar Chase can't get 125 plus? I don't know if he scores today, Donnie.
Yeah.
But Joe Burrow's playing for one reason only, to just hit numbers and put up 50 points. So give me Jamar Chase to break out today.
Yeah, Jamar Chase, they're up to 87.5 yards at a lot of outlets. And Joe is right about this. What are you playing this game for against a bad defense where you know the other side probably is going to be a pretty good running mate? You should be able to put up statistics for both of those sides today. So, Joe, there's Tyler Warren, Emeka Egbuka, and also Jamar Chase taking a look. For me, I went running back, and wide receiver, Joe. I'll start with my number one. It's Stephon Diggs over 58.5 receiving yards. You take a look at the New England Patriots coming into today against a really bad football team and a bad defense on the New York Jets, but also banged up at a couple wide receiver spots for New England. More targets to go around. We're not asking for 90, 100 yards here to Stephon Diggs. Keep the hot momentum going for Diggs entering into the playoffs. No doubt in my mind he gets around 60 yards to cash that in. Now, also, Joe and I have our mind on it. Keep him at later. We're going to have some best bets in the show, and mine's going to come from this game. But I'm going to take a look at Bucky Irvin, 60.5 rushing yards. I just think whatever is available for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers on offense today will work. You like Mike Evans for a touchdown, you like Egbuka for a touchdown, you like Baker Mayfield to throw a couple touchdowns, you like Bucky to get 15-plus carries, which I think he will. That's going to equate to 60-plus rushing yards in this game. So I'm getting down with Bucky Irving out of the backfield here for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Final game I'm going to go to. It's such a tough game to bet. It really is. And if I'm looking from a Giants and a Raiders perspective, and I want to prop from this game, is it quarterback? I don't even know if they're going to be throwing the football a lot. Is it wide receiver? Well, if the quarterback, we don't know if it's going to be throwing the football a lot on either side. How can you take that? Even though I do think Wandale makes a little bit of sense. For me, it's Ashton Genty. And I'm going to go both ways with this. He's really emerged as a solid pass catcher out of the backfield and also a running game that against the Giants, you should be able to get some movement. In a game, I don't think it's going to be a blowout, Joe. Either way, Ashton Genty, for me, makes a lot of sense. 98.5 rushing and receiving yards for him to get around that century mark, I think makes a lot of sense today, where if I had one player to bank on in this game getting the most touches, I think it's Genty.
Yeah, I mean, he's a workhorse, right? Catches it and runs it. And again, if they don't have wideouts to stretch the defense over the top, it could be him in the short to intermediate passing game. So it's a great look. He's got a huge number and chalky for anytime touchdown. So Genty could be the guy for Las Vegas today.
How about this, though, Joe? We know this season's been going so far, and you take a look at some of these prop bets. Like, you're on Jamar Chase. Like, what's the odds you get to the half? Chase got one target, 5 yards.
It's possible. I mean, Donnie, I have told you this throughout the regular season. They're getting paid all this money. Justin Jefferson, no touchdowns. Jamar Chase, no Travis, what's his name? Brian Thomas.
Yeah.
Doesn't even.
Where's that guy at?
Where's it?
Future of the Jacksonville Jaguars.
All
banished.
the number ones for teams do not even come close to their receiving totals anymore.
Yeah.
I mean, what changed? Is it personnel? Is it mindset? There's got to be something. I mean, it's just ridiculous. Week in and week out. All the number ones now don't even come close. Xavier Worthy for Kansas City is like a forgotten man.
Correct. And they don't even Rasheed Rice is down. More opportunities for Worthy. They don't even see the football at that point here.
Ladd McConkey, one catch.
What about Oladokin? That's your boy there, quarterback, lining up. By the way, let me ask you this question. Neither one of us took this, and it's expensive. Myles Garrett, I'm looking at FanDuel right now, Joe. Minus 250 to get a sack today.
Yeah, he probably gets it.
Minus 250.
I just hope it's a legitimate sack. Don't do the Brett Favre and get Gastineau crazy.
Yeah, especially with a runner like Aaron Rodgers leaving the pocket. Like, oh, no, Myles Garrett's here. Like, get it organically in the first quarter and be done with it. And there's a good chance he might get a few because if you don't have a lot of wide receivers, which they don't have for Pittsburgh, maybe you're staying in the pocket a little bit extra long, and Myles Garrett's going to get, he's going to get 20. He could get 25 sacks this year.
That's great.
Crazy stuff. Hour number 2 on the way next. Right here on the Grid.
Let's play a little buy or sell. I think it's pretty evident that despite being one of the best tight ends in the history of the NFL, Travis Kelce's play and physicality and everything, with all due respect, took a big step back. This was easily his worst physical season of all. He just didn't look like himself. Travis Kelce will retire after the season. Buy or sell?
Yeah, I'm probably 60-40 on this that he retires. The only thing I'd say that maybe he returns is because he doesn't want to end the way it ended, not making the playoffs and that sort of thing. But let's just say for Gales at Mahomes, he isn't going to be ready for September or October. Unless they get a really good veteran quarterback, maybe he doesn't want to deal with that either. Go through a training camp and you may not make the playoffs either next year. So I'm probably 60-40. I think he's done. Too bad. Hall of Fame career. I guess good luck with Travis Swift and your podcast with Jason.
I'm buying this. Andy Reid addressing this question this week. Why? He could have just deferred and said, I don't know, we'll see. Fully answered the question about this maybe being his last game. What does that tell you? He knows. Everybody knows. I'm not 60-40, 90-10. I'm on buy. Bo Nix versus Caleb Williams. You'd rather have Nix over Caleb Williams in a dynasty league?
That's a tough one. I think I'm going to go Caleb here, mainly because he has more running ability than Nix. I think he'll also stay healthier than Nix. I might like his receivers more as well. He's got Dunze. He's got you got DJ Moore. You got the good tight ends here. Probably do lean towards Williams here. Not by a hell of a lot. It wouldn't be an easiest choice here, but I'm going to go with Caleb Williams here.
I would agree. It's not that I think that Ben Johnson is a better coach than Sean Payton. I think Ben Johnson is better for Caleb Williams than Sean Payton will be for Bo Nix. I think running is going to be a big part of what Denver does in the future. So there you go. I'll sell.
Fantasy Sports Today. Friday starting at 3 p.m. Only on SportsGrid.